Hey everyone, Ezra Firestone here with my co-host Brett Curry. Brett, are you here?
I am here and excited to be here.
Awesome. This is session one of Smart Google Traffic, and I'm super excited for this training program. If you don't know anything about me, my name is Ezra Firestone, and I lead a company that I just counted up the other day. We're now at 69 people. We'll do well over 25 million this year in top line revenue, and our businesses are 100% built on paid amplification, so advertising model businesses. And one of the sources that we get a lot of value from in the e-commerce space is Google, and a lot of people are not paying attention to Google and not using Google very well, and that's what we're here to change with this program. Now, my co-host is Brett Curry. Brett is, first of all, just like the nicest guy ever, and I've known Brett for a long time. He's one of the earliest members of my Blue Ribbon Mastermind. I have watched him scale a services agency specifically related to Google and Google Shopping and Google advertising from the ground up to now having dozens and dozens of clients and having managed millions and millions of dollars in spend, and really being recognized by Google as like a top 1% service provider, top 1% agency. He is a monster when it comes to Google advertising, and he does all of my Google advertising. I've long since stepped out of the game of doing it myself, and so Brett is really the star of this show. He is really the expert. I know a lot about Google because Google is my first advertising source. It's really where I cut my teeth and got started with advertising online. So I'm very familiar with Google and the strategy we're using there. But Brett's really the guy, and he's going to be doing most of the teaching of this course. I will be here. I will be supporting. I'll be adding in comments as I have them. But Brett, I'm super thankful that you agreed to collaborate on this training for my community. Once we kind of got deep into the stuff that you were doing for me, I thought, gosh, I really have to share this because it's powerful. And so, Brett, is there anything else that you want to say? And I would love for you to actually kind of rattle off any credentials or just certified, whatever it is about you and your relationship to Google advertising.
Yeah, I think you covered most of it. I am shopping certified and AdWords certified, mobile and video and all that good stuff. You are right. We've scaled our team, so we're at just under 20 team members. Got to fly out to the Google headquarters a couple months ago, and then the Google Partner Summit last month. And so we're going to do some really cool stuff. We're trying to push the envelope. We're heavily invested in the e-commerce community, and I've gotten to speak now at a number of your events, Ezra, and so as I've interacted more with the Smart Marketer community, I love it, and so this is going to be a ton of fun hanging out and teaching and kind of digging into the this topic that I really, really love. I have to catch myself. Sometimes my wife will be talking to friends or whatever. They'll ask what I do, and I'll have to say, I wonder if they want the short answer or the long answer. Because I can get into this stuff if you want me to. Most people don't.
Oh, so. Goodness. Yeah. Cool. Well, before we get started, Brett, I want to set a few ground rules with the folks on the training. So here's just some stuff for you to know. If you're a part of this training, this is a paid beta. And so what that means is we're doing this live, and we're doing it live. Some of you may have been part of our project management course. We did the same thing. So you are, in addition to this live training with Brett and I, after this is over, after the 5 weeks or how many ever we're doing, I think we're going to do a couple bonuses in there as well. After that's all done, we're going to go back and do what we call a professional recording of this training program, and you will get that too. Now, that doesn't mean that this isn't professional. What that means is that through running it live, through seeing your questions and the points where you want clarification, we're going to learn how this material wants to be presented, and then we will sort of record it and have it in a members area. So you will get access to that as well. You essentially get two courses because you get the live version and then you get the professionally recorded version afterwards. Now, this is a professional recording. I say professionally recorded meaning its structure will be set. We will have figured out what's needs to be in each module. We'll have had feedback from you, and so to that end, we very, very much encourage feedback, and we're actually going to send you a survey after each presentation, maybe the day after, and ask you, hey, where would you have liked us to explore more? Is there anything that you were confused about? We're going to ask for feedback, and we really want that because we want to make this training as the best we possibly can, and we need your feedback for that. So I wanted to point out that you will be the only people who ever get to go through this thing live, who ever get to ask Brett and I questions live. We're not going to do it again like this. This is a one-time thing, and you got it at a discount And the reason you got it at a discount / the reason you're getting both versions of the training, this live version and the professionally recorded one a month or 2 or 3 from now when this is over, is because we're counting on you to give us feedback. We really are. We really want your participation. So anything that, even listen, we can handle constructive criticism. We are not fragile.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yep. we want to, smack us around if that's what's needed. Tell us what's what. Like, say, hey guys, you really need to go deeper on this, and we will do it. We listen. We're here to serve. That's what we're up to. So that's like number one. I just really want to set the context for this, and I will remind you of that every presentation at the beginning, just for consistency. Secondly, is we will run each webinar will last about 90 minutes. We will run 1 hour to 1 hour and 10 to 15 minutes of content. We will then do 15 minutes-ish, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the content category for that particular week, of live Q&A and answer questions for you live. We do have email support and chat support on the website. Should you have a question, you can pop into chat. You can shoot us an email if you get stuck with something, and we'll take care of you. I do have my COO, Colleen Taylor, on this call as well, and I'm just going to unmute you there, Colleen, or you can unmute yourself. Is there anything that I need to add to that intro, or are we good to go? Maybe Colleen was not expecting me to call him. There you go.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Hey, everybody. Yeah, no, I think you got it. You covered it. Like I said, the post-session surveys will be super important, and they'll be coming. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, with that said, I'm super excited to kick it off. And, Brett, I'm going to send it over to you.
Fantastic. Okay, let's dive in. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Q&A at the end of this, so please save up those questions. You can fire them off now. I probably won't see them. I get into the groove, and I don't see that. But I definitely want to take your questions. We'll dive into those at the end. So I feel like it's important that we lay the foundation just a little bit and understand where are we going, with this course. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? Why even take the time to do this? And so I want to highlight a few things, and we're going to be talking about kind of assembling our team. I will warn you in advance, I use a decent amount of sports analogies, so I hope that resonates with you, or if not, you can empathize and it will at least make sense. But let's talk a little bit about why Google, and then we'll kind of talk about the big picture of what we're going to do with this module specifically. So, you can look at different numbers, of the market share Google owns. ComScore, I think, is in the high 60%. Net market share survey shows 77%. But if you look in Google Analytics, and like Ezra said, I've had the privilege of looking in hundreds and hundreds of Google Analytics accounts, and then if you look at the search traffic, it's usually more like 80 or 90% of that search traffic comes from Google. So Google dominates. We all know that. Bing and Yahoo, they're kind of afterthoughts for most people. So Google actually owns search, right? And I hear on occasion people talking about search is decreasing, or mobile is taking over search, which people are searching on mobile, no doubt about it. But the reality is we're searching more everywhere. And so now it's like 3.5 billion searches per day on Google. So search is becoming more a part of our life, not less. And we could pontificate about where wearable devices are going to take us and voice-activated devices are going to take us and things like that. But search is still critical, and it's still huge. So Google Search, which is how Google makes basically all their money, it's huge. It's still growing. And then if you look at the Google Display Network, so we're going to talk a lot about remarketing and how to get visitors back to your site to purchase. The Google Display Network, it reaches like 80% of the web. And so that is obviously significant. If you visit news sites and sports sites and things like that, you're visiting likely a lot of those are part of the Google Display Network. And so those are going to be at your fingertips. We're going to show you how to access that, how to use that, and how to advertise there. As Ezra said, Google Shopping, that's kind of one of our claims to fame. I wrote the ultimate guide to Google Shopping that Shopify published, and that's kind of what helped launch our agency back in the day, really helped push it over the top. And so we'll talk a lot about Google Shopping and how you can leverage it in a really unique way. And it is the #1 comparison shopping engine if people are going to look at, hey, this product versus that product, or they're in that evaluation stage of purchasing. Google Shopping is the place to be for that. And then really, this potentially is my second favorite source of traffic. I probably still like Google Shopping the best, but YouTube is just phenomenal. And I actually cut my marketing teeth in the radio and TV business, which is kind of interesting. But I've always been a huge believer in the power of video to sell and to make your business legitimate and almost create this celebrity status in some ways. But YouTube now, the options for us to advertise on YouTube, and we're doing this with Boom, I'm doing this with essentially all of my clients. We're using YouTube for remarketing, and man, is it working. It's working well. And if you look at it, the demographic 18 to 49, more people are watching YouTube in prime time than the top 10 TV shows combined. And that probably doesn't...
howdy is all I have to say about you. That's all I got to say about YouTube is boy howdy.
And the targeting options. So the YouTube exclusive module, I'm so stoked about. I may bring the most energy on that module because it's so awesome. And I got to preview a few things when I was in New York City at the Google Partner Summit. There's going to be some new targeting options, some new features in YouTube coming out, kind of the end of this year or Q1. They'll be available by the time we do the full recorded version of this that are going to blow your mind. And so excited about that. But the targeting capabilities on YouTube are phenomenal. The audience is there. Just so many cool things with YouTube. So going to dig into that. And then I know every e-commerce site is different, and so this slide is more on the enterprise side of things. I've had the privilege of working with some pretty big e-commerce companies through a couple of other agencies and some partnerships, and done some consulting with big e-commerce companies. And so if you look at e-commerce as a whole and where traffic comes from to e-commerce sites, it's still driven by search. Search is still the biggest at 38.9. I know a lot of people in this community, your business is driven by Facebook and even Boom. Facebook
and one thing to just mention about that is search grows as the brand grows. It's very awesome. If your brand is small, now is the time to set your Google infrastructure, because as the brand grows, which it will if you're hanging out with people like me and putting your attention on direct response advertising, search grows, and the Google infrastructure just supports that growth, the Google infrastructure that we're going to help you create for your brand in this course.
Yep, absolutely. So the whole concept here is you want to be where your customers are. And so think about shopping behavior, even think about your own shopping behavior. And this is really, I think, why I fell in love with marketing back in the early 2000s when I was in college and trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. Studying human behavior and seeing why people respond the way they do, and how they shop and how they click and how they behave. Our life isn't just contained on Facebook, and it's not just contained on Google, and a lot of times we're not even really thinking about that. We're just meeting a need, or we're feeling a want to waste time on Facebook or whatever. And so knowing that your customers are bouncing around on all these platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Google, and then understanding, hey, when they're going to buy a product, there's this awareness phase where maybe they don't really know what's available, what's out there, don't know who you are. Once they become aware, now they're going to maybe take that next step of evaluating and searching and looking and comparing, and then finally they'll get to decision. And so looking and thinking about shopping funnels and then saying, hey, I want to be wherever my customers are. I want to be in their face in a cool way. I want to help lead them through this process and really help them convert. Now, I know a lot of people in the community are also active on Amazon, and so if you think about product search, and there are different ways, obviously, how people can become aware of products. Facebook is huge, Instagram, things like that. But still, the majority of products are found through search. So when someone realizes, hey, I need a new mixer, or I need a new backpack, which I'm looking for a backpack right now, or I need new shoes, man, I've got this event or whatever, so I'm getting new shoes. Usually someone's going to search for that, and they're going to do it either on Amazon or Google. And so if you combine those two, 91% of product searches start on either Google or Amazon, and so that's essentially all of them, right? So if you can be in both places and capture people if they're searching on Google or Amazon, you've essentially got your bases covered. A little breakdown, this is a pretty recent survey from Internet Retailer, February of this year, and this could be kind of scary for the folks at Google, but this still represents billions and billions of searches that are on Google. Amazon's a little over 50% of product searches, which is phenomenal, but that 38% that's on Google is still this massive piece of the pie, and then everything else is just kind of dabbled here and there and with some other channels. And so,
Brett, you know the funny thing about, when I sold this course and I started kind of talking to the folks who joined it, and I said, what are you most stoked about? And everyone is like, I'm stoked about display network retargeting, YouTube retargeting. Nobody is stoked about search, but you're going to be stoked about search by the end of this thing. I'm just saying,
well,
it's like going to be good for you to have search and shopping as well. Yes, YouTube, yes, display network, but boy, search and shopping are powerful.
it's still a foundation, and when you understand that if someone sees you on Amazon or they see you on Facebook or they see your YouTube video or whatever, the next step they're going to take if they don't convert right then is they are going to search. And there's so many benefits. We'll get into the specific search module. That's actually the next module after this one. But there's so many benefits to having a branded search campaign, and we're not just going to do it the boring, old-fashioned way. We've got some pretty killer ways we set that up. And so, yes, search, man, it's still foundational. You can't forget about it. And so then thinking about Facebook and Google, I mean, look at your own shopping behavior. I can think of several times over the last month that I've seen something kind of cool on Facebook or Instagram. And guess what? I didn't purchase right then because I wasn't really thinking about it. I wasn't planning on it. It wasn't part of my day, but I looked at it and I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. It's usually shoes or pants of some kind. But anyway, I was looking at stuff and I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to buy it now, but if I want to take that next step, then my next activity would be I'll search for it on Google, right? And so looking at some stats from Fortune, 99% of digital advertising growth is from either Facebook or Google. So this past year, 54% of total digital marketing growth was attributed to Google, 45% to Facebook. They're both still growing. And this is where some people forget about Google and think it's dying. It's not. It's growing at an incredible rate. And so really to advertise online, you can pretty much reach everybody through a combination of Google and Facebook, which is pretty exciting. And so really we want to help close the loop. As someone sees Boom on Facebook, interacts with a video of Cindy Joseph giving tips, giving kind of a demo, walkthrough, whatever. If they don't buy right then, which they probably won't, a lot of them won't, then the next thing they'll do is they'll go back and search and look for Boom on Google. And so we want to help close the loop and kind of bring it home for you. And this is one of my favorite quotes as it ties into this. It's from Dan Kennedy. He says that he or she who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins, right? And so if you can outspend your competitors to get a customer, that puts you way ahead. And so really the way you do that is by getting good conversion rates, obviously, and kind of doing the one-click upsell and some of the things that Ezra teaches. But it's also about getting good remarketing, right? So that most people don't click on that or don't purchase on that first click. And so how do we effectively, strategically, cost-effectively get them back to purchase? And so that's what this is all about. And so let's just dive right in. We're going to get kind of technical. We're going to get tech nasty, as Ezra likes to say, and I'll borrow that phrase. I love it.
Tech nasty.
Tech nasty. And I mentioned that I'm a kind of a sports fan. I do coach basketball, so that's my favorite sport, although I watch a lot of them. I actually coach my son's JV basketball team. We're getting ready, man. We're in this conditioning phase, getting everybody ready for competition. Got our first tournament here in a couple weeks. But we're looking at, how do you assemble this team? How do you get the right team working for your business? And understanding the differences in the players, right? I was looking at my team today, trying to figure out who my starting five was going to be. And I need a big guy in the middle who can kind of bang around and get rebounds. I need some shooters. I need some drivers. And if you look at your advertising campaigns, you can see some similarities, right? There's going to be some of these campaigns that get the conversion immediately. They close the deal. There are going to be some other channels that are better at assisting. They're going to pass the ball, so to speak, to another channel to convert, that type of thing. So looking at this team of campaigns, this team of channels. And so looking at data, so we confessed we're all nerds, which is a cool thing these days. But this has to be fueled by data, insights, and strategy.
And so, Brett, I just want to just quickly say one of the reasons I was so excited about you teaching this course is because one of the things that you really are an advocate for is clear data, and that's one of the things that you're going to be showing folks how to set up, and I think that is actually one of the most exciting elements of this training is the clarity of data.
Yep, and you can easily get in the weeds with data, right? You can totally get into the minutia and get lost and then be confused and not be able to make decisions. And so I'm going to help you try to avoid that and get like to the key points of data, making sure it's clear, making sure it's accurate, but then let's have data we can take action on. And this is, as we have clients come to us with my agency, if they're with another agency and they're unhappy, one of the biggest complaints we hear is, I don't really know what my data is like. I don't really know what's happening. As for reports, I don't get them. I can't really see what's going on. Then if I just talk to people who are kind of running everything on their own, a lot of them say, we have Google Analytics, or we have this or that, but man, I don't really know how to leverage it or how to dig in. And so this isn't obviously just a Google Analytics course. We could have an entire course on Google Analytics, but we're going to dig into what are the data points that are most important, how do you find them, how do you best understand them, leverage them, and things like that. And so, some of the things that we're going to be measuring and looking at is part of this process is building your email list, right? Getting more people to opt in. Also building remarketing lists. So that may be a little confusing because this was positioned as, hey, this is kind of remarketing. This is exploding all your remarketing options, and that's true. But in the process, we can also build some unique remarketing lists, and we're going to talk about that tonight. And then, obviously this is all about driving sales, and so a lot of what we're doing here is kind of bottom of funnel stuff, getting people to finally make that conversion decision. And so you do have to think about direct conversions, right? And to use common internet lingo, it's the last click conversion. I want to talk about that here in just a minute. But you also want to pay attention to things like view-through conversions, and that's when someone sees your ad, they don't click, but then within a given window they do go ahead and purchase. And now I think you have to treat that for what it is. You have to understand that it is a view-through conversion and not a click-through conversion. But it's important to still see, especially with display remarketing, YouTube remarketing, things like that. We want to know, hey, how many people that viewed this ad, viewed this video, how many of them went on to purchase, even if they didn't click right away. And then I'm also a huge believer, I talked about the basketball analogy, looking at assisted conversions. If you look at some of the most valuable players in the NBA or in college or whatever, they're not always the person that scores the most. They're also often the person that sets up the score, that assists in the score. And so I want to look at something because this is really important. I'll show you where to find this report in analytics here in just a few minutes. But this is the conversion path report in analytics. And if you look at it, this is actually from Boom. So if you look at this is not all the conversion paths, obviously, but this is some of them. And so if you look at these conversion paths, almost none of these paths involve just one visit, almost none. And so what that means is,
I don't know. I think it's less than like 1% of our, we don't make sales on the first visit. You know?
I mean, who does that? I mean, maybe if you're buying something really cheap and something, but usually if you've thought about it a long time, if you buy it on one click, it just doesn't happen. So understanding what are these paths? So in typical e-commerce attribution, right, or really just online marketing attribution, what people do is they look at, okay, here are my sales for the month, and I'm going to use last click attribution because that's been the standard forever. That's how Google AdWords started. And there was a day when it kind of made sense because there just wasn't the sophistication to do anything else. But it's really flawed. And so what we're looking at here is what also played a part in this conversion. And so looking at, hey, you know what? Organic search also played a part in this conversion, and my YouTube video played a part in a ton of conversions. It wasn't the last click on very many, but it actually brought people to the site in these conversion paths, and eventually they did buy. So anything that's not the last click is what we call an assist. Now, one thing I'll also be able to talk about more in the recorded course, because this is something that's not released yet, but it will be, is a thing called Google Attribution. And it's going to be a new tool that you plug in your Google Analytics account, your Google AdWords account. It's going to look at all these conversion paths, right? So it's going to break down all these paths that you see here. And it's going to use Google's machine learning, which is off the charts, and be able to tell you, hey, this is the real lift that Facebook brings you, and this is the real lift that Google Shopping brings you. And I'm totally stoked about that. It's going to be awesome. But as we go through and look at what's working here, we want to not just consider last click conversions because it's very short-sighted. We want to also look at assists and what is leading up to the conversion. Does that make sense, Ezra?
100% it does. Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's essentially embracing what I call multi-channel, multi-touchpoint marketing. So basically, just understanding that now marketing is going to happen across multiple touchpoints and being able to monitor your data and know what's going on and where. And that's like our whole business is built on this concept of multi-touchpoint marketing, awareness level marketing, retargeting marketing, loyalty marketing. Kind of look at it in those three pillars.
Yep, awesome. Okay, so let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get tech nasty right now. So I'm going to open up the Boom Analytics account here in just a second. We're going to dive in. Quick look though. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to look at e-commerce settings and analytics. Again, what we need here is let's know our data. Let's make sure it's accurate. Let's make sure we got the proper goals set up so that we've got everything in place to really make this happen. So again, going back to the sports analogy, I heard that John Wooden, who's arguably the greatest college basketball coach of all time, would sit his players down at the beginning of each season and remind them how to tie their shoes and show them how to put their socks on properly, which does not sound like fun. Or Vince Lombardi would say at the beginning of a season, gentlemen, this is a football, right? And he would, starting with blocking and tackling and kind of the basics. And so we do need some of this. We'll try to not make it boring, but we do need some of this foundational stuff. It's critical. Otherwise, nothing else really holds up or works after this if we don't have this in place. So we're going to look at goal creation, remarketing list creation. This is where we can start to get kind of creative. I'll show you the basics first, but creating remarketing lists. We'll look at those conversion paths and attribution. We'll dig into that just a little bit. If you don't already have Google Analytics, which I'm assuming most people here do, go to google.com/analytics, click on the sign up for free. It walks you through it, man. It's super duper easy. Basically, you just need to get a snippet of code. I'll show you where to find that in just a second. Drop that into your store, and you're off to the races. So let's actually, I'll get out of this view. Let's get the Boom. We'll get the Boom account up here, and we'll start rocking along. And so I want to back up here to get to, so once you have your analytics account created, you're going to want to live here in this admin section in the beginning. So once you create it, it's going to have nothing in it to begin with, but you need to go to this admin section. So is this zoomed in enough, you think, Ezra? Can people see this?
I think that you may want to zoom it in just one more.
Okay, I will do that right now.
Just, Command plus or whatever it is. Yeah, Command plus, just like that. And yeah, I think that will work.
Perfect.
Totally.
Yep. So I'm right here in the admin tab of Google Analytics, and just a quick explanation. Let's say you have multiple websites. You could have one Google Analytics account and then multiple properties under that. So that's kind of the setup here. So this is boombycindyjoseph.com. The property is boombycindyjoseph.com. But if Ezra had other sites, just a blog-only site or other things that were related, they could be their own property. And then every property, so you have multiple properties under any one account, and then you can have multiple views under any individual property. I'm not really going to get into the way views work because it's not all that important to what we're talking about here. But basically, you can create unique filters that are unique for each view and kind of slice and dice things however you want. But that's not really critical to our discussion today. A lot of what we're going to look at right now is under this property section. So once you create this account, once you create your analytics account, you come in here under properties, click on tracking info, and then tracking code. And that's where you're going to get your code. This is the global tag. It's going to go on your site. There are instructions right here that you can email to yourself or send to somebody. Ezra, if you had to guess, like, what percentage of your audience is on Shopify? It's got to be a pretty large percentage, I would think.
I would say 80. Sorry, I muted myself on accident. I'd say 80% for sure.
Yeah, No worries. So if you're on Shopify, you really only need this ID right here. Plug that into Shopify. You're off to the races. But if you need the whole tag, this is where you get it, right here under the tracking code, which is under tracking info. And so that is how that works. And so I just got a weird notification that attendees are still on hold. That must not be accurate.
No, we're all good. You can just keep rolling.
All right, cool. So then kind of the next step is let's look at how do we turn on remarketing. Now there's a few ways you can capture remarketing lists. You can use the AdWords remarketing list, the AdWords remarketing tag inside of AdWords. I prefer using Google Analytics to create lists. I think it's cleaner, I think it's a little bit easier. You're already going to have analytics on your site, so you're going to have that code on your site. Like I mentioned, for Shopify, it's super easy to put Google Analytics on your site. And then once it's there, you can really create any remarketing list that you want. And so this is going to be a little bit unique because with Boom, we actually use a lot of lists that are generated from AdWords, but you don't need to do that. You can do it all through Google Analytics. And so here's how we create lists inside of Google Analytics. And what you need to do kind of first is you need to enable, you need to allow for Google Analytics to start grabbing people's data and start building remarketing lists. So we do have to turn on remarketing. And so we're going to stay here under the properties, under tracking info, going to go here to data collection. Going to click on data collection. Very simple. We're just going to have to click on this little on button for remarketing. If that's not turned on, then you can't start to build remarketing lists. And so you do have to turn that on.
Pop back out and just show that flow one more time there, Brett.
You bet. Yeah, let me back up here too, just so you kind of see it. You know, when you click into admin, this is a view you're going to see.
Yeah. So Google's it's run on a left menu. You know, Google Analytics. So at the very bottom there, it's going to be your admin section.
Yep. So you can see all the reports and stuff here, which we'll dig into a couple of those in a minute. But here under admin, this is what it's going to look like. Under properties, you're going to go tracking info and then data collection. And this is where you tell Google, yes, start building remarketing list, start capturing information. It's just a simple toggle. This is already on for Boom, obviously.
And one of the things to know, guys, with the professional version of this course is you'll get something called a standard operating procedure that will walk you through this part with arrows and stuff. That won't be part of this live one, but when we re-record it, we'll do those. So if you've ever been through one of my other courses, you'll know what that is. Basically, when you get the professional version, if you haven't yet implemented this stuff, which is totally fine, you can go ahead and just give that to your service provider, your marketing person, and they'll be able to implement it based on that.
Yep, absolutely. And then one of the other important steps is to turn on demo and interest targeting. This is where Google is going to start capturing demographic information, interest targeting, so other things people are interested in as they're browsing the web. And so you turn that on here in property settings. So again, we're under the properties section. Click on property settings, and then it's just going to be right here, enable demographics and interest reporting. So that's going to be switched off for new accounts. You're just going to want to toggle that on and then click save. And there you have it. So once
a quick note for Colleen, maybe we want to do a quick start guide, like have one of the team members run through this quick start stuff and just put together a quick little PDF for folks. And get folks a quick start guide for this part. And yes, for those of you who are wondering, is this live version recorded and available? 100%. We're recording this. It will be in the members area. You'll have lifetime access to it, or a couple years, whatever. So we are going to get this recorded. This is recorded for you. And we'll go ahead and get you a quick start guide on this setup stuff.
Yep. Okay, so now let's talk about lists. Okay, so this is where we're looking at how do we put our visitors into buckets or lists that we can then target uniquely, right? And so kind of as a rule of thumb, the more specific you can get with your list, the better. But when you're just starting out, then any list is better than no list, right? So let's talk about how to build a remarketing list. It's actually very simple. It's again here in this properties column, this properties section, and it's right here under audience definitions. So we're going to click audience definitions, we're going to click audiences, and then this is where we build our lists. And so I'm zoomed in and it's running kind of slowly. But this is where you can kind of create a list based on behavior, right? So if you
Now,
don't,
Brett, people
yeah,
might be a little confused because you're talking now about creating audiences that you want to target with advertising, but you're not doing that in Google AdWords. So let's
right.
just quickly just repeat that part.
Sure, sure. Yep. So once we start creating our ad campaigns, once we create the actual, whether it's shopping ads or text ads or display ads or video, once we create those, that will be done in AdWords, which we're going to transition to AdWords in just a minute. But if you think about analytics, analytics is a super powerful tool, shows you what's going on your website, and it knows everything about every visitor that visits your site, right? So this is the best place, in my opinion, to create a list. So all we're doing
so
now
Google
is building a
has
list.
given you the power to build your groups of people over here in analytics and then just say, hey, Google AdWords, now that I'm buying ads from you, I want to target these people, but I built the list. So you're kind of, just wanted to clarify that part.
Exactly. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, so you're building a list here. I'm going to show you how to connect it to AdWords in just a minute and what that looks like. But here's what we're looking at. So all users, that's going to be the first list you start with. I'll show you how to do that if you click on New Audiences. That's going to be the kind of the first option is just all users. And so if you're in a position where you're not getting a ton of traffic to your site, that's probably all you need to start with, because any other list you create is going to be kind of too small to really do you much good. With Boom, I mean, Boom's getting a ton of traffic, so getting more segmented is better. All right, so what we're going to do, I'll back up one more step here really quickly. We created I created these earlier. These are purchasers, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And so let me just show you how to create that. So if we go here to New Audiences, we'll just walk through this really quickly. So we want to look at someone who's completed a transaction. So someone who's completed a transaction, and this is going to be, let's see what I do. I did 30, 60, 90. So what would be good, Ezra? Would you ever want to use a list of people that have purchased in the last 180 days?
I think 15.
15? Okay, let's go short.
Like
Let's go short.
I like 7 and 15 because I try to sell bundles to people who just bought. Like, hey, you just bought. Like, now's the best time to talk to you. Let me hit you with an offer for like a big product.
Yep. And so this is what you do. So now the duration is 15 days. We're just going to be hitting people. This is going to have a strike while the iron is hot type of approach with this audience. But essentially, that's all I did. I chose transactions. I set the date. I'm going to the duration for the membership of the list. I'm going to click next step. You could add dimensions here. There's no need with this particular audience to add any kind of dimension. I'm sorry. This is destinations. So this is where we would choose AdWords. Right. Click OK. There's also an option in a minute where we can look at funnels, and that's kind of what I thought this was.
Brett, did we cover linking analytics to AdWords for folks who may be confused about that part of it? And guys, don't worry. The rest of this training isn't like this crazy tech stuff. I mean, yes, there's the infrastructure and implementation of actually setting up AdWords ads, but like this first part of like getting your infrastructure set up in analytics and AdWords is like a one-time deal. Then once it's up,
Yeah, once it's all connected, it's all connected. I will show that next. Connecting the two is super easy, and in fact, you'd be prompted to do that at this point here in Analytics. If you were logged in with the same email address that's in AdWords and that's in Analytics, you would be prompted to do that here. But I'll show you how to do that in just a minute once we pop over to AdWords. And so then really all you do is click Publish, and now that audience begins to populate. And so that's pretty much it. Because we are connected with AdWords and Analytics, now we've got the option to create a campaign if we want. We're not going to do that right now, but that is how you create that audience. And so a couple of other things you can do there in terms of audiences you can create. I want to talk about Smart List. Now this is already created, but you can find it just by going here to New Audiences and clicking on Smart Lists. Now, Ezra, are you familiar with Smart Lists? Have we talked about those much in the past?
Yeah, we have. They're amazing.
Yep. It's super awesome. So basically, because Google knows everything about you, and they know what you're doing now, what you're going to do next, they can read your mind, basically. No, actually, this is just based on what Google sees in Analytics, looking at, hey, based on a user's existing behavior to date, this is the group of people most likely to convert next. So this is the group of people that Google believes, hey, these people have visited your site so far, they have not purchased yet, but this list, this smart list, it's the most likely to convert next. And so really cool, basically all you do, Google builds this for you. When you first set up your analytics account, you will need to enable this or give Google permission to create a smart list. But then once you do, it's there, and so then all you have to do is select it, go through that process of clicking next, getting that saved, and then you are off to the races there. And so that's an awesome one to look at as well. You can also begin to look at, okay, if I want to, we have some clients that have, tens of thousands of daily visitors, and so remarketing to every visitor doesn't make sense in some cases. So then you want to look at engaged visitors, right? So just people that have been on multiple pages, right? And so you can, or that have been there for a long time, things like that. So this is where you can look at, This is where you can look at creating an audience based on people that have
and guys, if you're feeling overwhelmed, like, oh my God, all these lists, what do I do? Don't worry. When we actually get into this is just showing you the infrastructure of like, hey, connect Google Analytics to Google AdWords, use it to create your audiences. Like when we actually get into the setup of the ad campaigns, we're going to say, hey, this particular group of people set up this specific ad. So we're going to tell you exactly what and who, but right now we're just showing you the how.
Yep, exactly. So that's just a couple of different audiences you can create. I do want to talk quickly about goals and how to set up goals in analytics, because this is important as well. So this is where you're looking at, okay, what if someone does, completes a certain behavior on my site? And so maybe that's filling out a form, maybe that's visiting multiple pages, maybe it's purchasing, which Google will do automatically. That is actually set up in goals. And so when you go here, Ezra is actually maxed out on the number of goals that he has in this particular view, but I'll pop into this other account here. This is what it would look like. Click on New Goal, and then this is where you can use a template to say, okay, this is the type of thing, the behavior that we're looking to build, that we're looking to call a goal, and then you can kind of go from there. So you can do something custom, where it's based on people that visit multiple pages, and so yeah, lots of options here. And again, I know this can be a bit overwhelming, so I'll potentially cut this part short. But looking at building those audiences we just talked about, that's the foundation, and that's kind of the most important first steps. So that's where that's done. The other thing you want to do right out of the gate with your analytics account is you want to turn on e-commerce tracking, and so that is done in the view level. And so this is, you would think that this is something that every single e-commerce store owner would do right out of the gate, but some people don't know about it. I've even run into clients that have agencies that have not done this, which is kind of crazy, but it's under view and it's e-commerce settings. Again, this is super easy. Actually, I'm not an e-commerce store, so I need to go back here to Ezra. So this is where, let me back up here so you can see a little bit better. We're going to look at e-commerce settings, and we're just going to click on enable e-commerce and then enable enhanced e-commerce. And so enabling e-commerce, that just means it's going to start tracking transactions. And once you click that on, then Google is going to immediately start tracking all purchases on your site. If you enable enhanced e-commerce, which is kind of this step right here, which Ezra has set up, this is where you can start to look at more of a funnel. So you can see, okay, these are the steps someone takes in checking out, and now with enhanced e-commerce, I can see kind of where they're going, where they're bailing, which step they're getting to before they pull the plug or before they leave the site. So I do recommend you turn on enhanced e-commerce as well, but at a minimum, enable your e-commerce settings. It's super important. Okay, so that's kind of the real nitty-gritty of getting this set up. And I know for some of you, if you're an entrepreneur and you're all about just driving sales and pushing things and being creative, some of that does not sound exciting at all, but it's critical. Like I said, you got to get the right inputs, got to get the right data, got to make sure that everything is there. And so,
what's the action item off of that, Brett? Just connect AdWords to analytics, basically, and Is this the part where we're asking people to set up specific lists? Are we doing that in the next module where it's like, okay, these are the retargeting lists we want you to create?
Yeah, the first things I would do, this is just when you get Google Analytics set up. So now you've got access to Google Analytics. I would go ahead and set up those lists. I would get the all list, which for some people that may be all you can use for a little while, because a list does have to have about 1,000 people on it before you can do any targeting. And once you turn it on, so once you turn it on today, it starts building from that day forward. So if you've had 1,000 visitors a day every day for the last year, that doesn't matter. It's when you turn the remarketing list on, that's when it starts populating and building. So we want to for sure turn on that all visitors audience. We want to for sure turn on the smart list if that's available.
So here's what I think we'll do, Brett, is we will make a list of audiences that we want people to create, and we'll go ahead and give you guys a, this is just a note to Colleen as well, or whoever's watching this recording back, a list of like, here's all the lists to create. If you can only create these, but like just a clear sort of like, these are the lists we need you to create. After this,
absolutely.
We'll add that in as a bonus.
Yep. So what I'm trying to do here is, as you're in analytics, let's go ahead and get kind of the foundation laid in analytics. Let's go ahead and get our list populating, get people on them, so we can actually use them once we get into AdWords. And so,
awesome.
So that's kind of the foundation what we're building inside of analytics. And I do want to, while we're here, I think because we talked about it a second ago, I think it'd be good to look at this multi-channel funnels we talked about, just so you know how to get there. We kind of teased in the beginning. I'll just show you how to get there since we're in analytics right now. So if you, as Ezra mentioned, analytics is kind of this left nav layout, and so if you look here under conversions, it's under multi-channel funnels. That's where you find assisted conversions, but also top conversion paths. And this is where you can look at, hey, these are all these are the most common paths to convert that my users take before they actually purchase. So all the different channels they click on, that they visit, that they find my site through, that's where you find that. And so we'll dig into that more later as well, but wanted to at least show you that's how you get to that right there. So let's go ahead and pop over to AdWords and talk about what you would be doing in AdWords, how you would link AdWords and analytics, and then begin that process. So again, this is just laying the foundation. But if we go here to AdWords now, if anybody has used AdWords, I know you have, Ezra, this is the new version of AdWords. So you can still toggle back and forth between the new version and the old version. That's not going to be the case forever. So likely after sometime in 2018, we'll all be forced to use this new version of AdWords, which has some benefits. All of my paid search specialists who have been using AdWords for years are resisting it a little bit, but I want to, as you create a new account, this is what you're going to see first, is this new version of AdWords. Just if anybody wants to know, you can click on this little toolbar, go here, return to previous AdWords. If you so desire, if that's more comfortable for you, you can do that, and then it will look more like this. But I want to give you the walkthrough here of how to connect everything using the new AdWords platform, because as you create an account, that's what you're going to see. So we'll go back here to the new AdWords platform. Let that load for just a second. And again, all you have to do here to create your AdWords account is adwords.google.com, sign up. The one important thing you'll want to remember is you want to use the same email address that you use to create analytics as you do to create AdWords. And so having that same email address being logged in at the same time makes the connection of the two very easy. And so when we're here, we're going to click right here on that little toolbar. And then the easiest way to connect the two, in my opinion, is here in the conversion tabs. There's actually a couple ways you can do it, but we're going to look here in conversions. So if I've created my AdWords account, and again, the AdWords account, that's where your actual ads are going to live. This is where your campaigns are going to live. This is where we're going to be making the magic happen, right? As we get deeper into this course and we look at, okay, here's the exact campaigns to create, here's how to structure this campaign, and here's why it's so amazing. That's all going to be done right here in AdWords. We're going to be measuring some of the performance. We can measure it here and in the analytics. But when we're in AdWords, if we want to connect Google Analytics, we're going to go here to conversions. And once we're there, then you're going to see some options. So like I mentioned, right now, Ezra is using AdWords conversion tracking. There was a time when that was the most common way to track conversions. It's still fine. We still run into a lot of clients that use AdWords conversion tracking. There's actually nothing wrong with doing both, with having AdWords conversion tracking and analytics conversion tracking. But for the sake of simplicity and just making this easy, just use analytics. Just set up analytics like we talked about a minute ago. Get your e-commerce settings turned on. And then once that's done, you can now connect it to AdWords. Let me show AdWords. And so again, now this is where we're looking at. So we talked about analytics, how we set things up there. This is how we're going to import our goals and bring those goals from AdWords, or from analytics rather, into AdWords. And the reason we want those goals in AdWords is because later in the course, when we talk about here's how you optimize this campaign, and here's how to bid up or bid down or see what's working, what's not, you have to have those data points, those conversion data points in AdWords so you can see what's going on. And so the easiest way to do that, in my opinion, again, we're in the new AdWords interface. I can show you this in the old interface if you'd like, but if you go to create a new account now, you're going to get the new one. You can go back to the old AdWords interface right here if you choose. They're pretty similar in terms of the things are labeled pretty consistently. So we're going to look here under conversions. In the old interface, it's tools and conversions, but you can click on conversions. Here we are, like I mentioned, Ezra's using the AdWords conversion tracking.
Oh, that blue and white one? Oh, it was old. I
think we got another T Phelps. There we go. Good. So we'll click on plus conversions. This is where we're going to look at adding a new conversion type. And it's really cool. You can do things like phone calls and apps and all kinds of crazy stuff. All we're doing for right now, though, is importing conversions from another system, because we're importing conversions from Google Analytics. So we're going to click on this guy right here. We're going to click on Google Analytics. Easy peasy. We're going to click on continue. And then from here, now all of those goals that Ezra has created are available here. And so this is where we're going to just choose transactions. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because the AdWords conversion tracking code is working and working fine with Ezra's account. But if you're setting up a new one, this is exactly what I want you to do. Just pull in transactions right here from analytics to AdWords. And again, if you're in analytics and you turn on those e-commerce settings, you enable e-commerce, it's going to automatically start tracking transactions. Once that happens, and then once you link this, and then this is where you can go do that. So now, if you had not linked analytics, then once you got here and chose analytics, that would not be an option, right? You would actually be prompted, you can do it there. But the other way to do it is, again, under this toolbar, and we're going to go to linked accounts. In the old version of AdWords, there's a wheel in the upper right hand corner, and it's still going to be the same thing, linked accounts. And so here we go. Once we get here, we're going to have the option of Google Analytics, click detail, and this is where we're going to choose our option. Now, this is my manager account, so I've got like a couple hundred accounts in there, but for you, it's just going to be the only analytics account you have associated with your email address. You're going to see it right there. You're going to click link. It's super easy. That's all you have to do. So once that's done, then now you are rocking. Now you can pull in those transactions into AdWords. You'll be able to see how each campaign is performing, and you'll have the data you need to really crush this course and really leverage these traffic sources. So
and just to remind you,
what's
we're
that?
going to do a cheat sheet for you on all this
Exactly.
tech setup.
Yeah. It's easy. Like this may feel over. I know different people learn different ways, right? So some of my team members, they love just get this quick walkthrough. They get the walkthrough, they're off to the races. Other people, and I would kind of fall into this camp, I like a cheat sheet. So when you have a cheat sheet, then you can reference that. It's there, pass on to your team, whatever. So that will be available. Let's talk about Merchant Center really quickly. Now, this is going to be used when we get into Google Shopping, the Google Shopping module, and again, Google Shopping, maybe my favorite child, maybe my favorite traffic channel. If I had to pick one, love Google Shopping, it just works and you do amazing things with it. But to use Google Shopping, you have to have what's called Google Merchant Center. And so Merchant Center looks kind of like this. We're going to, basically you're going to create this by going to merchants.google.com. And very easy, just like signing up for AdWords or Analytics, enter your email address, use the same email address you used for AdWords and Analytics, go here, create your account, takes a matter of minutes. The thing that you'll want to do here, the things that I want to do kind of as we're being tech nasty and getting all this set up, is I'd want to go ahead and claim and verify your site. So to use Google Shopping, you have to prove that you own your site. So you couldn't, well, as an example, I know some people run AdWords ads, so the text ads, the search ads. They run AdWords ads to their Amazon listing. And that's okay if Amazon's not bidding on those keywords as well, right? But you can never run a shopping ad or product listing ad to Amazon because you have to prove that you own your site. And so what you have to do here, this is under your business information, and this is where you're going to claim your website. So it's right here. You would enter your website. It is already claimed and verified. The reason I wanted to show you, or one of the reasons I wanted to show you analytics first, is because if you create a Google Analytics account, you can actually, and once you get that code installed on your site, then you can verify, you can claim and verify Merchant Center using analytics. It's done all right here in the Merchant Center interface, but you can claim and verify everything right here. So it's actually here under the website tab is the easiest way to do it. There'd be a claim and verify option here. You'd click to claim, and then to verify, you're going to use analytics. And so when you click on verify, it would give you an option of, hey, how do you want to verify? Do you want to add a piece of code to your website? Do you want to use Google Analytics? You choose Google Analytics, and then basically you're just giving it permission. So it's super easy. You're going to claim and verify. Once you do that, now you can start using Merchant Center. And so then kind of the next step that I would do right now, kind of just get out of the way, let's get this taken care of so we can move on to fun stuff, is your tax setup. So typically, you're just going to be charging sales tax in one area. And so this is where we're going to see, let's just set up taxes here at a state level. And so currently we're going to click here. And this is actually where typically, and this is already set up for Ezra, so you're not seeing the visual here, but what you would do is choose just the state that you're selling from. So choose that as your state that you charge sales tax in if you have to. If you don't have to, you can skip this step. But choose that state, and then there's an option where Google will calculate your sales tax for you, and you choose that option. So those are the main things that you want to do kind of in this beginning stage. When we get into the actual shopping module, that's where we'll get into the real details of building shopping campaigns, your product listing campaigns, things like that. But this is what you want to, it makes sense just to go ahead and get this set up, get this out of the way, because at the end of this module, you'll have everything connected, and then you'll be ready to be off to the races. So that is Google Merchant Center. And then finally, before we get into our Q&A, we want to look at YouTube. And so YouTube, actually got just a kind of a test account here, but you want to use that same login, so the same email address, same login you used for AdWords and Analytics, use that for YouTube as well. And so then once you get here, you're just going to...
One of the things to know, guys, is that one of the reasons why Google isn't as popular as Facebook is because its interface is not as cool and not as easy to use. But we're going to walk you through it. We're going to make sure you have a cheat sheet, and we really just want to get you or have your team get this tech infrastructure set up so that we can get Google ads going for your business, because the barrier to entry is higher, which means less people use it, which means there's more opportunity there. So it's worth doing the tech setup, because then you'll be one of the folks who are taking advantage of this medium.
Yeah, this is the step where a lot of people bail. A lot of people look at, oh man, I don't know how to get this all connected, don't want to get this all connected. And so then they don't, or they leave it to somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, and then you can't harness the full power of all that Google has to offer. So it is better. I will say it's easier now than it's ever been, but it's still maybe not the easiest thing in the world. So you're going to create your channel here, and then we're going to go back to AdWords and link it all together. And what I'll do, so we'll have the cheat sheet. That'll be your ultimate resource. As we go through the different modules, so as we look at, hey, here's creating your video campaign, which I think is module 4. Then we'll just reemphasize, hey, if something didn't work in the linking of YouTube and AdWords, here's how to do it again. Just make it real quick and easy. But again,
so Brent, if you could zoom in a little bit, because now that your screen's like, it's like down, and we can see your backdrop and stuff. Maybe you just want to maximize or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
So last thing, this will be how to connect YouTube. As you potentially guessed it, it's under linked accounts. We're going to scroll down here to YouTube, click details, and link it. There's several places you could do it. It's like if you forget to do this step, then you start to create a video campaign, Google will prompt you and say, hey, do you want to link your YouTube account? And then you can do it then too. So this part is actually super duper easy, but this is the place to do it. Click details, then you got an option to link your YouTube account. So with that covers kind of the basic. Let's get our team in place. We got kind of our starting 5 here. We got people. We got these accounts we're going to be able to use now. They should be linked together. Our remarketing lists are being generated and populated. And so now we should be ready to go. So now we can actually start building these campaigns and making this stuff work. So I'm ready for Q&A if you are, Ezra. So if you've got any questions.
Let me reiterate that we will get you a cheat sheet on this to make it easier for you to implement. And we'll obviously give you the recording of this as well. But we'll get Brett to write down some bullets, cheat sheet style, like this is what I want you to achieve. Take some screenshots, throw a few arrows at it. We'll just add a little extra work for Brett, but it'll be well worth it because it'll make it easier for you. Now, I do have the list of questions from GoToWebinar. I also, you also have a live chat here in Zoom, and so you can click the chat box underneath your Zoom setup, and you'll be able to go ahead and send stuff into the chat. I'll go ahead and start with the questions that came in from GoToWebinar when we were over there. The first is, what is a KPI?
Ooh, that's a good one. So that's Google lingo, key performance indicator. So these are like your key metrics. So we can look at like 1 million different metrics in Google Analytics, but these are your KPI. These are the things that are really driving your business. So this is your conversions, your conversion rate, your return on ad spend. Those really key performance indicators, things you really need to pay attention to, and the things that move the needle in your business.
Awesome. I think it would help to have a definition of last click versus assisted click.
You betcha. You want me to walk through that now?
Sure.
Yeah. So let's use the basketball analogy. I'll also use a drinking analogy that Mike Rhodes, my buddy, uses. He's an Aussie, so I think all their analogies are drinking related. But he talks about so let's start with basketball. So basketball, the last click, that's the person that puts the ball in the bucket, right? So if you think about the team of basketball, people are passing around, dribbling, bringing it up the court, all this stuff. It's the person that puts it in the basket. That's the last click. The person before that who's maybe passing the ball, that's the assist. So the way this looks, if we go back here to,
and yeah, you can go back to that. While you're doing that, I'll talk about it in terms of advertising. So assisted would be, let's say I ran a Facebook video ad, someone saw that, and then they went to Google and they typed in my brand and bought from me. So the Google search would be the last click attribution, i.e. the last place the person came from. But the Facebook video would be the assisted conversion, i.e. the place where they saw me first that assisted in the conversion path.
Yep, exactly. So there are other things to look at. So there's what's called first click, which in that case that Ezra gave, that would be Facebook. So really an assist is anything along the path that's not the last click. And then last click is just the last traffic source right before you purchase. So one thing we see a lot is, direct is the last click for conversion. So someone maybe, they saw your Facebook ad, they then clicked on Google text ad, then they saw a YouTube remarketing video, then they were finally convinced, and a day or two later, they just typed in your URL and they purchased. Well, with last click attribution, all of the credit for that sale would go to direct, which really direct is meaningless. That's someone keying in your website. There had to be something that prompted them to do that. And so in this case, it was a combination of Facebook and search and YouTube. And so the assist would go to Facebook and YouTube and search. The last click would go to direct in that particular case. So again, with this funnel, the last click was email. The assist was organic search. So hopefully that makes sense.
Definitely makes sense. All right, moving on to the next question. And reiterating for the folks who are just joining, we will have a cheat sheet on this tech nasty. Would you suggest, by the way, I am catching the questions that you're asking now in Zoom as well. Would you suggest to match as close to possible audiences as the one covered in Facebook Video Ads Mastery course? Yes, I think those audiences are really solid remarketing audiences. And when we get into the remarketing advertising setup, we will also go through those audiences. But for sure, those are really great audiences.
Yep, and we'll talk about all of my favorite audiences for YouTube specifically, all my favorite audiences for search and for shopping. With this module, we're just saying, hey, here's how to turn it on so you can at least start collecting data.
Totally, and it's really important to get that data flowing. So I like that we did that first. When you create your first audience in analytics, what audience destinations do you add? There are options for AdWords and analytics.
Yep. So you really only need to choose AdWords.
Let me explain that too, Brett. Which is that is like, where do you want to send this group of people? Essentially, right? Like, you want to send them over to AdWords so that in AdWords you can target that group of people.
Exactly. What you'd be doing. So then you may be like, well, now wait a minute. I'm creating this list in analytics. Why would I want to send it to analytics? If you choose that option, then that just means you'll be able to look at that audience in analytics and see some of their other behavior patterns if you want to. But the goal is you create the list, you send it to AdWords so you can then target it with your search, shopping, and YouTube ads. Yeah.
Cool. Next question is, would you use Hotjar or use analytics tool to analyze visual behavior? I mean, I don't think analytics is heat mapping is that great. What do you think?
Nope, not at all. So if you want a heat map, use Hotjar. I would look at Crazy Egg, something like that. And so, none of that directly relates into, how you build a... No,
it has nothing to do with AdWords.
Right. It's still important.
Yeah, but it's just not part of this conversation.
Yep.
No offense, by the way. Great question. That's more for analyzing the performance of a web page, which we're not really doing right now. We're kind of trying to set up advertising on Google. Okay, if we already have list setups, should we delete them and get fresh data? I don't think so. I think your lists are ongoingly updating, correct?
Yep. You're going to have a duration for how long someone's going to be in that list. And you can see that if you click through to the list. So it's going to be refreshed as people, new people buy, they're going to be added to your buyers list. That 15-day window purchasers that we created here on the webinar, that's going to be constantly updated. People will drop off. People will be added to it. So no, you keep your old lists and just build new ones. Yeah.
Awesome. My number two under audience source says enable remarketing, not audience definition. I'm not sure what that means. My number two.
Can you read that one more time, Miss?
My number two under audience source says enable remarketing, not audience definition. My number two under audience source. Where is audience source?
Well, so to turn on remarketing, that's under tracking info and data collection. That's where we turn on remarketing. And this is where we start creating the actual audiences. There is the property setting where we enable demographics and interest reports, but I'm not sure. Maybe send us a screenshot.
Okay, so let's keep rolling here. So we tried to do remarketing through AdWords, and it told us we had to set up tags. This became confusing, and we stalled. Do we need to worry about any tag stuff? I know there are a couple types of tags that have to do with Google. Can you create Google audiences around email actions? I'm already connected analytics and MailChimp, i.e. an audience of people who opened an email. So it's two separate questions. It's number one, are we messing around with tags in Google Tag Manager? Number two, can I do an audience of people who opened an email and didn't click, etc., using analytics and MailChimp?
Yep, and so this is where people can get bogged down. They could say, oh man, I could do the AdWords conversion code. Like I said, Google Tag Manager, which Tag Manager is awesome, but it's complex in the beginning too. Or how do I do this? So this is why we kind of chose the process of, first of all, no, you don't need the AdWords conversion.
Boy, analytics is so much simpler.
Analytics is simple, man. You install it one time.
And listen,
all your lists in there.
real quick, y'all, if you're using Shopify, the analytics data is connected right to your store. So you're able to create audiences, of folks who've done, whatever's happened on your store, because Shopify send all that data into Google Analytics. So,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where, if you wanted to create goals using AdWords, you'd have to create a new conversion code in AdWords for each goal you wanted and then drop that on your site. It becomes messy. For some people, it's, whatever, they get it. But you only really need analytics because you can create your goals and your list there. And then in terms of your email list, we'll show that in a couple of the upcoming modules, in fact. But you can take that email list, you can connect it to analytics, but that's actually when you can go straight to AdWords. So I can even show that really quickly if you want.
Yeah, that one, we're definitely going to show that when we get into actually setting up the remarketing.
It's part of another module, but I'll show you.
Shared library.
Yep, exactly. So when you go here, it's under Audience Manager, which is under Shared Library. So Audience Manager, you're then going to create a new audience, just like so. And then you're going to say Customer List. And then you're going to choose the email, and upload that, and just kind of walk through the steps. So, like I said, this is actually part of another module. We'll walk through it, but that's basically it. If you have the list, you click through to here, you upload it. It's called Customer Match because Google's going to look at your email list and match those to Google users and say, this email address is this user over here, so now we know how to target them. So there you go.
Awesome. So next question. So this is about best practices for setting up goals for those who haven't set any up previously. And what I want to point out real quick is if you're on Shopify, if you're not on Shopify, you should still look at this, but I want to send you a link in the Zoom chat, Brett, so you can pull this up. And I think that this set of goals and funnels, like basically just follow Shopify's instructions on setting up a goal. And it's going to show you specifically how to set up a purchase goal in Shopify. I don't know if you got that. I sent it in for everyone. Right. If you scroll down now, Brett, scroll all the way to the bottom. Just keep scrolling, scroll. And you have to have someone on your tech team who do this. Keep scrolling, scroll. Wait for it. A little bit further down. Yeah, keep going down. A little bit further down the article. Right, a little bit further down. Right there. Okay, stop here. Okay, so look. Basically, this is Shopify saying, hey, we are going to track when someone comes from a product page, then goes to the cart, then goes to the checkout, then enters their checkout information, then pays, and now they've paid you. And we're going to track that in Google Analytics. We're going to track every step. So this is the Shopify native documentation on how to set up a purchase goal in Google Analytics, which, by the way, is like the only goal we're using right now is a purchase goal in Google Analytics. Now, Brett might have some fancy, crazy goals that he's using for different stuff for us or for his other clients that he can talk about. But minimum, first, the one thing you want is a purchase goal. And any e-commerce system, Magento, Volusion, BigCommerce, Shopify, whatever you're on, WooCommerce, is going to have documentation on how to set up a purchase goal in Google Analytics, and that's what you need to find and set up.
Yep.
Anything else on that, or is that's that? That's
perfect. And actually, so this will then help you track each step of the process. But if you just enable e-commerce, that will create a transaction goal. So that will allow you to say, this person purchased. It won't necessarily then track each step of the way. That's where you would need to do this setup, which is on this article.
So I'm adding all kinds of complex stuff that's not even necessary for
but e-commerce. It's great, though. I mean, it's great to have it. But yeah, if you just enable e-commerce, transactions, boom.
Yeah, and that's really what we're looking at is the transaction data, guys. That's what we want. We want to know when someone bought, how much money they made, et cetera. And that's just turning on enhanced e-commerce analytics, right?
Yeah, enabling e-commerce is kind of the first step, and enhanced e-commerce allows you to
just pop back in there real quick.
Yeah, let's show that. So we go here. We're going to go back to analytics. So this is again in the admin section. So I'll just click on it. So you see it again. It's a little gear in the lower left. Goals are actually done, or I'm sorry, e-commerce settings are done at the view level. So again, we got account property view. View is where we get your e-commerce settings, and then this guy right here. Turn that on and transactions counted right there. And so then they'll show up, in all these other reports. When you look at conversions, when you go here to traffic sources and you see goals and transactions, it'll all show up there. But this is where you turn it on right here.
Awesome. Okay. my Google Analytics gets the wrong number of conversions, sometimes too many, sometimes too few. I'm using Shopify and I hooked up the UA number. How might I go about troubleshooting this? Now, I want to point out that I think that our Shopify data and our Google Analytics data is off by about 5%. That's just the way it's going to go. It's never going to be, Facebook is never going to be the exact same data as Google, which is never going to be the exact same data as your Shopify admin. So if you literally just enable Shopify native integration, it really is close enough. It's very, very, very close, but it's not going to be exact.
Yep, and what your experience is the way it is with everybody. If it's within a few points, 5% or whatever, that's about as close as you're going to get, and so you don't need to worry about it. If it's more than that, then you may have, another app or plugin or something that's conflicting, or maybe you have the code on twice in a couple pages if you've done some customization, something like that. But yeah, there's always going to be a little difference, and that's probably what you're experiencing.
Totally. Okay, if we have an old AdWords campaigns and they truly can't be deleted, how can we set up our views so they don't show? When I go to my dashboard, I always see this old stuff. Is there a folder? What do you mean they truly can't be deleted?
Old AdWords campaigns that can't be deleted?
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, don't worry about that if there's old campaigns.
Just delete them. Why can't you delete them? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow the question. Can you read one more time? Because maybe let's see.
It says if we have old AdWords campaign and they can't truly be deleted, how can we set up our views so they don't show? When I go into my dashboard, I always see this old stuff. Is there a folder to create, or does?
Well, you should be able to delete them, but what you can do. So if we're here under all campaigns, and actually, let me go to the old platform just for a second. There's a couple ways you can do it, but if we're here, and then you're going to choose what you can see. This is available in the new platform too, but this says all but removed campaigns. This would show every campaign, all old ones, paused ones, whatever. Just go to all enabled. If you choose all enabled, then that's just going to show you the new stuff, the active stuff, and then you can kind of ignore everything else.
Cool. And there's a, okay. And don't worry, I see all the other questions. I see all the other questions, and I'll get to those. Why would we calculate tax if Shopify is doing it for us? In Google, why would you set up tax?
Yeah, so Google requires it. So they want to know, because they will often, for your product listing ad, they will put that information in there. So they want to know what the final charge is going to be, because they'll let the person know. So the easiest thing to do is to set up just the state that you're in. If that's the only place you charge sales tax, Google can actually calculate that for you if you just select your state. But it's just a requirement. Google requires that you have tax settings enabled if you charge sales tax. If you don't, then you choose that you don't, and that works as well.
Sweet. And then next question is, okay. As we create different audiences, what is the minimum size for a decent remarketing audience?
Yeah, so the minimum to target anything is 1,000 people, but you want typically more than that. But our philosophy is, man, just start building it, get these campaigns set up. The focus of this course is more about remarketing and closing the loop on the funnel, getting people back. But the short answer is 1,000 people is what you need on that list.
Yeah, and I think that's plenty big. You can get a lot of, you can make money on that for sure. How fast will we get a replay? I'm going to get it up to my team tonight, so it'll be up in the members area tomorrow. This might be a later question, but I currently have Google Analytics for WordPress by Monster Insights installed on my WordPress site, but I'm switching to SendOwl for my WooCommerce. Do you know if that plugin will send e-commerce info over to Google Analytics, or if I should install a special WooCommerce Google Analytics plugin instead? If you don't know, no worries.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but likely. I mean, usually those apps, they're adding some data to what's going on. But if you've got analytics, if you're just plugging in your Google Analytics code or your account number into the OWL thing, whatever that's called, then you're probably good. But the bottom line is, whatever.
I would say I would go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you here, Brett. Were you done, or did I interrupt you? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
That you definitely want to do some investigation on whatever the native Google Analytics integration to WooCommerce is, because I know there is one. I know there's one that like everyone is using to get your transaction data. I'm not sure off the top of my head what it is, but I know that if you just Google WooCommerce, Google Analytics transaction integration, you'll see a bunch of options. You'll see some forums, see people talking about it, and there'll be some suggestions. I have nothing under my property tab, and I do remember setting up my account with Shopify, so I'll need some help troubleshooting this. So under property, she doesn't have her website there.
So if nothing is here, that's peculiar. Now it could be that she's maybe.
Oh, she says the website is there. Hey, well, why don't we let you go ahead and just share your screen real quick, just because we're on the live. Why not?
Yeah, potentially what's going on is that you're logged in with a different email address, like an email address that doesn't have all the permissions. That's what it sounds like to me. If you've logged in with an admin email address, then all of these things should be there. So if by chance you maybe like shared analytics with multiple emails and you're logged into an email that's just a user or something, then you may not be able to see all these options. But I'm pretty.
Let's hey Brett, stop sharing your screen for a second.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm gonna see if I can invite Meryl to share her screen. Let's take a quick look. Let's see. Hey Meryl, can you click the share screen button underneath your tab there? By the way, guys, we're not going to be like doing in account. We just happen to be on, so we might as well.
Perfect. Okay. So what I want you to do, Meryl, is click on that user management under account. Yep. Click on user management.
To the left, all the way to the
left.
Down and to the right. To the right. It's in the second tab, a second column. There you go.
Under your name, basically. Aha. So that you don't have the proper permissions for that particular login. So if you logged in as an admin, then you could see everything there. So yeah, that's what I assumed. So just log in. Either have whoever set it up grant you full rights to analytics, or log in with your other email address and get that taken care of. But that's the reason. You're
Brett,
logged in, the user.
Thank you for doing that. We are only 10 minutes over, and I wasted exactly about 10 minutes by messing up the technology. So that comes to the end of this presentation. This is definitely the most boring part of this training.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
It's definitely the most boring, and we will get you a cheat sheet. And I got to say, also, we super appreciate you being a part of this beta group, and we are looking forward to making this training easy to consume and easy to implement, and also having it make your business more money, which it will if you follow along and implement this stuff. So thank you so much for showing up live. Thank you for switching accounts, hosting platforms midway. I apologize for that inconvenience, you guys. And Brett Curry, you are the man. And thank you for being willing to make a cheat sheet for everyone. And I'll just give you a call as soon as we're off here. And everyone else, thank you for your time. I'll get this recording up as soon as I possibly can. We'll catch up with you all next week.
See you next week.